The High Temple of the Valari Covenant had never known silence. For 10,000 cycles, its chambers echoed with chanting, ritual harmonics, and the constant murmur of prayer spoken in languages older than most stars. The priesthood believed silence was an omen, proof that the universe itself had turned its gaze away. So when silence fell the moment the human woman spoke, the alien priest knew something had gone terribly wrong. He dropped his staff. It clattered across the crystal floor, the sound echoing like a fracture through history, and he whispered a word no one had spoken aloud in millennia. Impossible! The arrival of humanity. Humanity's arrival into the greater galaxy had been disappointing. No divine signs, no celestial heralds, no prophecy fulfilled. Just ships, functional, inelegant, and clearly engineered rather than grown or blessed. Humans spoke plainly, negotiated directly, and showed little interest in the sacred hierarchies that govern most galactic civilizations. To the Valari Covenant, a theocratic empire that ruled half a spiral arm, humans were spiritually empty. Soulless engineers, the High Synod declared, children without ancestry. So when humanity requested an audience at the Grand Temple, the priests agreed, not out of respect, but curiosity. They expected ignorance. They did not expect remembrance. The trial of words. The human delegation was small. No soldiers, no weapons, just diplomats. At their center stood a woman named Dr. Mara Elian, a linguist by trade, unaugmented, unarmored, and unremarkable in appearance. The high priest Jarkal rose, towering above her, his ceremonial staff glowing with relic energy. "Human," he intoned, "you stand before the covenant of first memory. Speak your purpose." Mara bowed her head respectfully. "We seek peaceful recognition," she said. "Nothing more." The chamber rippled with amusement. "Peace requires lineage," Jarkal replied. "Recite the words of origin." It was a challenge no outsider had ever passed. The words of origin were ancient, spoken only during ascension rites, preserved in dead tongues no living species still used. Jarkal expected silence. Instead, Mara inhaled and spoke the language that should not exist. The sound shattered the chamber. Her voice changed, not in tone, but in weight. The syllables were sharp, rhythmic, and impossibly precise, vibrating through the temple's crystalline walls. Every Valari priest froze. Their translator matrices failed instantly. They didn't need them. They understood, because she was speaking Karunvel, the first language, the tongue of the architects. Jarkal's staff slipped from his grasp. "No," he whispered, "that language is forbidden. It is dead." Mara looked up calmly. "It was never dead," she said, still speaking Karunvel. "It was forgotten." The ancient truth. Panic rippled through the priesthood. Only the highest caste even knew Karunvel existed, and even they spoke it only symbolically, without comprehension. "How do you know this language?" Jarkal demanded. Mara answered softly, "Because your scriptures are wrong." The chamber erupted in outrage. Blasphemy, heresy, execution demands. But Jarkal raised a trembling hand. "Let her speak," he said. Mara continued. "Your gods were not divine. They were explorers, refugees, survivors of a lost age." Images flooded the chamber, projected directly into the priest's mind by no known technology. Ancient star maps, burning galaxies, fleeing fleets, and among them, human figures, humanity's forgotten role. "You call them architects," Mara said. "We call them ancestors." The Valari staggered back. "Impossible," Jarkal breathed. "Humans are young." "So is your memory," Mara replied. She explained what Earth had uncovered only decades earlier. Artifact buried beneath Antarctic ice, lunar ruins older than Earth itself, DNA markers that predated known evolution. Humanity had not risen once. They had fallen. Long ago, humans had been a spacefaring civilization, keepers of knowledge, builders of languages meant to survive extinction. When a galactic catastrophe erased that era, fragments scattered. Some species remembered the gods. Humans remembered nothing. Until now. Why the language survived. Karunvel wasn't meant for worship, Mara said. It was designed to endure loss. A priest whispered, a preservation language. Yes, Mara nodded. Encoded to survive oral drift, memory decay, and cultural collapse. She met Jarkal's eyes. We rediscovered it by accident, in a children's rhyme. The chamber was deathly quiet. The priest's realization. Jarkal fell to one knee. The high priest of the Valari Covenant, descendant of god-kings, bowed before a human. You are the rememberers, he whispered. Mara shook her head. No, she said gently. We are the forgotten. The covenant shatters. The implications were devastating. If humans were descendants of the architects, if the first language belonged to them, then the Valari faith was not divine inheritance. It was misremembered history. The covenant fractured that day. Some priests fled. Others knelt. A few screamed in denial. Jarkal rose slowly. What do you want from us? He asked. Mara switched back to modern galactic standard. Nothing, she said. We didn't come to rule or reclaim. She paused. We came to return what was lost. The galaxy listens. News spread faster than war ever could. Humans speaking dead god tongues. Ancient priests bowing. Religion collapsing overnight. Across the galaxy, old ruins were reopened. And every time, the same pattern emerged. Human symbols. Human math. Human words. Fear followed all, because if humanity had once ruled and fallen, what might they become now that they remembered? Final scene. As the human delegation departed the temple, Jarkal watched them go. Will you awaken the old empire? He asked. Mara stopped. She glanced back, eyes full of something older than fear. No, she said. Then, quietly, we learned what empire costs. Final line. The galaxy had worshipped gods. That day, it learned the gods had been human, and humanity had chosen not to be worshipped again.